Shalom, shalom, and welcome. Welcome to the White Rose Family Channel. Welcome to the series In Line, for there is so much to learn, so much to gain, so much needed and necessary for a time such as this, as we face economic upheaval, civil unrest, chaos, fightings, domestically and internationally. There are wars of all types that are emerging before us. Lawlessness is becoming widespread, O Yashar'al. And I'm going to present to you the case why something that we've taken for granted is important for these end times, especially for those who are of the set-apart family of Yashar'al. And so this segment, I want to present to you circles and wheels. Circles and wheels. My brothers and sisters, take a moment. Ask yourselves what comes to mind when you see, hear, or read anything regarding circles and wheels. You see, we take things for granted. We don't realize that there are reasons that the Almighty Father have established things the way He has. And believe it or not, circles and wheels are something we've taken for granted. We hop in a car and automatically we assume all the air is in the tires and the car will roll. Or we get on a bike or anything that rolls and we assume that the wheels are in perfect circle and will take us where we need to go, not knowing it could get flat. Believe it or not, O Yashar'al, circles and wheels. When we look and gaze into the clear sky of the night and see the stars and the planets, they're round. They may not be completely circle, but have you ever asked yourself why? Why are these things such? Circles and wheels. I will present the case where if we take a moment and reflect on this, it will add some strength to our preparation and actions that are soon to come regarding navigating through all that is breaking loose in the world. I will present how circles and wheels have an important part, my brothers and sisters, in our last days. I want you to come with me to Proverbs 8th chapter. Proverbs 8th chapter, verse 27 through 31. Verses 8th chapter, 27 through 31. For it reads, When He prepared the heavens, I was there. When He inscribed a circle on the face of the deep. When He set the clouds above. When He made the fountains of the deep strong. When He gave to the sea its law, so that the waters would not transgress His mouth. When He inscribed the foundations of the earth, then I was beside Him, a master workman, and I was His delight, day by day rejoicing before Him all the time, rejoicing in the world, His earth, and my delights were with the sons of men. When He inscribed a circle on the face of the deep. You see, even in the scriptures, we see the word circle. In a book that we consider a book of wisdom. Circles and wheels. Let me continue. Come with me to Isaiah chapter 40, verse 21 through 23. It reads, Do you not know? Have you not heard? Has it not been declared to you from the beginning? Have you not understood from the foundations of the earth? It is He who sits above the circle of the earth, and its inhabitants are like grasshoppers, who stretches out the heavens like a curtain and spreads them out like a tent to dwell in, who brings princesses to naught and shall make the rulers of the earth as emptiness. Many people, when they say sets above the circle of the earth, they believe it's a flat circle because they cannot conceive that Yahuwah is spirit everywhere at all times from all directions, any direction. The Almighty Father is there. The circle of the earth. They cannot conceive the size and motion and distance. They use only what they can understand, what they've been taught. And therefore they render the earth as being flat. But I say to you, O Yashar'al, the circle of the earth is as a globe, as a marble, not completely circle. Why is it such? Why did he create the planets and the stars such as he did? It puts our dependence on he who is everywhere at all times. You see, when those who think of the earth as flat, they may succumb to think that there are places to hide. They miss out. That the need to trust that Yahuwah is everywhere at all times, that he is the Almighty One. I'm going to present some words regarding wheels. Yes, wheels. You see, talking about the circle of the earth, or a circle here, wheels, sprockets, turns, it has some value, from a practical and natural to a spiritual. Let's get into it, my brothers and sisters. I want you to come with me to Ezekiel chapter 1, verse 1 through 11. Ezekiel chapter 1, 4 through 11 reads, "And I looked, and I saw a whirlwind coming out of the north, a great cloud from the fire flashing itself, and brightness was all around it. And out of its midst, like glowing metal, out of the midst of the fire. And out of the midst of it came what looked like 4 living creatures. And this was the appearance. They had the likeness of a man. And each one had 4 faces, and each one had 4 wings. And their feet were straight feet, and their soles of their feet were like the sole of a calf's foot. And they sparkled like the appearance of polished bronze. And under their wings on their 4 sides were the hands of a man. And each of the 4 had faces and wings, and their wings touched one another. And they did not turn when they went, but each one went straight forward. And the likeness of their faces, the face of a man. And each one of the 4 had the face of a lion." Now remember, the scriptures talk about Yahuwah is as the lion of the tribe of Judah, or Yehudah, on the right side. And each of the 4 had the face of an ox. Do you not know the symbol for Yahuwah, for strength, was the ox? And the left side, each of the 4 had the face of an eagle. Do you not know that eagle's wings mean the ability to soar to heights that you could not imagine? Such were their faces. Their wings were spread upward, 2 of each touched one another, and 2 covered their bodies. Let's continue. 12th verse through the 20th verse. And each one went straight forward, going wherever the Spirit was to go, and they did not turn when they went. And the likeness of the living creatures, their appearance was like burning coals of fire, and like the appearance of torches, moving back and forth among living creatures, and the fire was bright, and out of the fire went lightning. Who is it that is a consuming fire? I say it is Yahuwah, the Almighty One. Who is it that works and dwells within us? It is Yahuwah, the Almighty One. Could not his actions be considered that of fire, consuming the things that are designated to be burned, but making bright what should be necessary to magnify his light, his ways, his desires? It's saying the living creatures ran back and forth like the appearance of a flash of lightning. And I looked at the living creatures and saw a wheel on the earth beside each living creature with its four faces. The appearance of the wheels and their works was like the appearance of beryl, and all four had the same form. The appearance of their work was as it were a wheel in the middle of a wheel. And they went any one of four directions. They did not turn aside when they went. And their rims were high and awesome, and their rims were covered with eyes all around the four of them. And when the living creatures went, the wheels went beside them. And when the living creatures were lifted up from the earth, the wheels were lifted up. Wherever the Spirit was to go, they went, because there the Spirit went, and the wheels were lifted together, and with them, for the spirit of the living creatures were in the wheels. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al. Ezekiel speaks of wheels. There are those among us who believe this is talking about flying saucers. But let me continue in Ezekiel. 21st verse through 28. It says, when those went, these went. When those stood, these stood. When those were lifted up from the earth, the wheels were lifted up together with them. For the spirit of the living creatures was in the wheels, and the likeness was over the heads of living creatures, an expanse like the appearance of an awesome crystal stretched out over their heads. And under the expanse their wings were straight, one towards another. Each one had two which covered one side, and each one had two which covered the other side of the body. And when they went, I heard that the noise of their wings, like the noise of many waters, like the voice of the Almighty, a tumult, like the noise of an army. And when they stood still, they let down their wings. And a voice came from above the expanse that was over their heads. When they stood, they dropped their wings. And above the expanse over their heads was the likeness of a throne, in appearance like a sapphire. Like a sapphire stone. And on the likeness of the throne was the likeness as the appearance of a man high above it. And from the appearance of his waist and upwards saw what looked like glowing metal, with the appearance of fire all around within it. And from the appearance of his waist and the downward I saw what looked like fire and brightness all around. And as the appearance of a rainbow in a cloud on a rainy day, so was the appearance of the brightness all around it. That was the appearance of the likeness of the esteem of Yahuah. And when I saw it, I fell on my face, and I heard a voice of one speaking. My brothers and sisters, who has realized that the words in Ezekiel 1 through 12, going wherever the Spirit go? I submit to you, wherever the Spirit of Yahuah goes, while he works and dwells within us, we are there with him. Let us look again at Ezekiel 1:20, where it said, wherever the Spirit was to go, they went, because there the Spirit went. And the wheels were lifted together with them, for the spirit of the living creatures was in the wheels. I submit to you, and the symbolism that is mentioned in scriptures regarding the wheels, I pray, and often I ask the question, help me to understand the meaning of these words. And I believe, my brothers and sisters, that it's speaking of structure, the structuring of a set-apart nation. If you notice that there will come a time when we will rise up in the air to meet Yahusha. And I believe when it talks about that rise up in the twinkling of an eye will be changed, that's in a moment. It's like lifting grains of salt off a table and cleaning the table and then putting the salt back. Why did I use salt? Because the scriptures talk about us being the salt of the earth. I believe, and this is not a pre-trib rapture, but I believe there will come a time when the physical return of Yahusha, there will come a time when he will lift up the set-apart ones off the face of the earth. And like layers of an onion, layers will be cleaned and renewed, and we will see a new earth and a new heaven. The things that polluted the air and space would be vanished and consumed in the twinkling of an eye. See, there are scriptures that talk about the earth being forever. And I believe it's talking about those inner layers where man have yet to ever go into. They made an attempt, but haven't. So when they say a new heaven and the earth, it's layers that will be consumed in an instant. And when that new heaven and that new earth abounds, we will be placed on it. Believe it or not, my brothers and sisters, our comprehension, our reading and understanding differ based on how we are programmed. So many of us will struggle trying to discern what is Ezekiel saying regarding wheels. Imagine this, O Yashar'al, that the position that the circles and wheels that Ezekiel witnessed, imagine having the warriors of Yashar'al encompassing those that are being gathered, those who are the immediate warriors. And as you get inside the circle, there are those who are less combative from a physical perspective. Imagine witnessing that, my brothers and sisters. Imagine it to the most and the least among us being in the center. For some of us of age, we have seen old Hollywood movies that showed how they would take carriages and form circles when they were attacked. These pioneers, so to speak, when they were attacked, they would form a circle. So they'll take their wagons and form a circle. Did they not copy the dynamics of a circle from Ezekiel, which was older than their behavior? When we look at tents, many tents at one point had a circular base and came up to a point. Do you not know that when you look at a circle, it is difficult to know and discern its beginning and its end? It goes around and it returns right back to each other. Could that be the Almighty Father wants us to realize that when he says he's the beginning and the end, there are some cyclical things that happen, and only he knows the beginning and the end. We may, in our finite mind, say that's the beginning and the end of a matter because we don't seek to discern the everlasting understanding that the Almighty Father can give us. You see, even reading the scriptures, we can go on and on and on. But when they are made alive, we can get something more out of it. Read it again, get something more out of it. Read it again and get even more out of it. That join and link that has a connectivity. Now, when you read and they conflict and contradict with no understanding, that is a division that is brought by the wicked one. Yashar'al, oh Yashar'al, it is my position that circles and wheels are reflective of the Almighty Father who is the beginning and the end. It's a reflective of how we should structure. When Yashar'al began to move, I believe we will move in groups. And all around us would be the warriors, those who would be the brave protectors of Yashar'al as we began to gather from the four corners of the earth. Then the second stream, it would be like layers of an onion, with the least and the weakest among us being in the center, protected at all times, with no one dependency on a person leading, other than the Spirit of Yahuah. So when the circle have to go to the left, it doesn't have to turn. it just moves to the left because there's a strong warrior on every position encompassing Yashar'al as we begin to move. It will not always be a perfect circle. And then as we migrate to a larger group, we will identify the warriors to protect the weaker vessels among us. And we will continue to move until we reach our destination, O Yashar'al. Yashar'al, structure and leadership. If you look at a wheel, it can be a circle, but it needs something to connect to in order to have motion. Look at Ezekiel closely. You will find, even in the scriptures, when it talks about beasts, oftentimes it talks about beasts, it talks about nations. I'm compelled to believe that the wheels have components that are stronger than the other, my brothers and sisters. I am also compelled to believe that incomplete wheels will not be able to fulfill the intended purpose. In other words, if we do not understand the dynamics of structure, look at the scriptures. There's a lot of cyclical things. There's a lot of things that happened in times past that we will see similar things happen again. We have been programmed to dislike the word redundancies. We have been programmed to grow tired of repeated words, not realizing they reinforce, they strengthen, they make functional understanding from a literal and spiritual perspective. Yashar'al, Yashar'al, the first Exodus will prove to bring intermittent movement. The final Exodus, rather, I'm sorry. See, I got on my glasses. I'm trying to read to keep it cued, to keep it organized, to not go off into a lengthy rant. The final Exodus will prove to bring intermittent movement. It will be times, my brothers and sisters, when small wheels will meet larger wheels. Small groups will meet larger groups. And as we gradually migrate towards that final destination, the wheel gets larger and it grows and it remains structured in a way where the strongest among us will be in the outer perimeter protecting those least among us. Yashar'al, Yashar'al. If you are with a pastor, bishop, leader, or deacon who ignores the least among us, something is wrong. If you are following someone, or if you are a leader and not paying attention to the least among us, do you know that is like allowing the most vulnerable part of a set-apart nation to be at risk of the enemy entering in? And the scriptures say a little leaven leavens the whole lump. So if someone enter into the most vulnerable part of our gathering, they can disrupt that gathering. I submit to you that Ezekiel's wheel, that circles and wheels, want to bring to our attention, make sure that we are protected all around by the Spirit of Yahuah working in us, through us, one towards another. That no one from the least to the greatest will take for granted the value of circles and wheels, the value of covering, the value of the power and might of the Spirit of Yahuah working in us. Believe it or not, my brothers and sisters, set apart Yashar'al will not be beamed in an instant. It will be a process. The process has begun. We will learn how to vet and ask questions of one another. My brothers and sisters, I cannot stress enough to take heed to the details that the Almighty Father has put before us, to learn, to be strong. Recognize the wisdom and circles and wheels. Recognize the wisdom and structure and leadership. If we are in camps, groups, communities, or fellowships where there are compromises that are allowed, that will is inferior. that will is distorted. That will is damaged. We must learn how to be as iron sharpen iron, how to recognize the warriors, the physical warriors among Yashar'al, the brave and courageous of Yashar'al, who have been endowed with the mindset that is necessary to protect those that are least. Understand the dynamics. All the components of a wheel are necessary, and there will be motion. There will be movement, O Yashar'al. Prepare. It has begun, whether you realize it or not, whether we realize it. But soon and very soon, we will. The time is now to identify the information and capabilities that have been given us to fulfill end-time tasks, my brothers and sisters. And those capabilities rest with the ability to embrace the need for structure, so that we function as the Almighty Father will have us to govern ourselves or be governed by those whom He has chosen to lead. I encourage each of us to be reminded of the importance of circles and wheels. When we begin movement, O Yashar'al, the need to protect and preserve will be reflective of our structure. You see, if we neglect the least among us, and we start moving and we leave the weakest, the disabled, the infants, or the elderly behind, just maybe the enemy will start willing away at our structure, at our group, at our will. Rise up, O Yashar'al, and look at all the dynamics. Know that the beginning and the end of a matter is by the word of the Almighty Father. Our gathering will come, and it requires us to understand the dynamics of what's ahead. Yashar'al, Yashar'al, pray on these words. Have discussions. If we were to leave, who is in charge with looking and identifying the least among us? Who is in charge of making sure the infant, the baby, is with us? Who is in charge of making sure the elderly or the handicapped or the physically blind are with us? Do we talk on these matters? You see, our natural instinct is to cover our own selves, to try to save our own lives. But the reward for doing such as that will bring nothing but pain and regret. Rise up, O Yashar'al. Talk about the structure of gathering. Talk about the structure of movement. Talk about who will be among the ranks of the final gathered. Talk about who will possibly be left behind. More than ever, talk about who it is that makes the decision of those that will be among the set-apart wheels that would come into a wheel, to a larger wheel, that it would ultimately be centered physically around the great set-apart mountain of Yahuah, which I believe is the true Mount Sinai, which is commonly known as Jabal Allah. Pray and watch. There will be a return to the promised land. But we will not just come in there, trickling in there one by one. There will be a mass exodus, a final exodus. Pray, O Yashar'al, we are near that time where we will begin to see movement beyond the movement we see now. And what would make us move? What would make the wheels begin to roll? I submit to you earthquakes in diverse places, wars and rumors of wars, fighting, disease and pestilence, all that is written in Matthew 24, Luke 21, and throughout the scriptures regarding end-time prophecies. Conditions, livable and habitable conditions will roll up. If you search the scriptures, they don't mention the land mass beyond the region where life began. They talk mainly of countries in northeastern Africa and Middle East. You see, there was no Middle East years ago. All of that was part of Northeast Africa. If you were to study the prophecies, end time prophecies, and decide and discern and believe that 2/3 of the population will be killed, where do you think that last third will be remaining? If you know that there will be a gathering from the four corners of the earth, that makes up some of that last third. And if you know there will be wicked nations that will gather in Megiddo to march against the set-apart children of Yahuah in those last days, they were part of the 1/3. But what about the rest of the planet? I submit to you, it will be uninhabitable. Pray and watch, O Yashar'al. The title seems simple, but the work to form a solid, set-apart will reflecting the structure and strength that the Almighty Father has designed for us takes work. Seek to discern these words. Seek to discern his voice and identify your position, my position, our position. On that note, that's it, O Yashar'al. That's all I have for this segment. Stay tuned. There's much more to come. I end with the words, Shalum, Shalom, my brother, my sister, my family. Shalom.